In this video, you'll discover how you can get the benefits of autophagy without fasting. Autophagy offers profound positive benefits to our overall health. Many people are aware that you can actually go and get into autophagy through intermittent fasting or a multiple day water fast, but what most people are unaware of is that you can actually do it without fasting, and that's what I want to teach you in this video, so stick around to the end. Before we get started, I'm Dr. Zarowski, and welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, it is a pleasure to have you here. Be sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell, and I'm going to help you excel your health and your life. Let's go ahead and talk about this topic of autophagy because, as I mentioned, it is incredibly profound as to how it can positively impact your health throughout your entire lifetime. Now, the benefits of autophagy, let's talk about them briefly here. And we're going to talk about just a couple major points. First, it's going to help protect your DNA. The reason it's going to protect your DNA is because it's going to help clean up a lot of those bad cells. Autophagy goes in, it takes up those broken down bad cells and it helps clean them up, get rid of them, turn them into new, good quality, healthy cells. So it's going to help protect our DNA. Our DNA gets damaged from our lifestyle, our poor habits, but also not only the things that we can control, but also the things that we can't control. A lot of chemicals in our environment these days that are very damaging to our DNA. It also is going to help fight against disease. I mean, let's think about this. I mean, diabetes, cardiovascular disease, cancer. I mean, all these different diseases that many people are facing today, autophagy can help fight against them, and that's very, very powerful. And then also it'll help improve neurological function. I mean, same thing, a lot of people, their brains aren't working well. I mean, I can't tell you how many people call us up in the clinic and say, hey, you know what, I have a problem with brain fog. I can't focus, I can't function. And then of course, neurological conditions are just on the rise right now. A lot of people suffering in that way. And then just good old longevity. I mean, you know, if we just want to live well, if we want to not only have good quantity of years in our lifespan, but also high quality years, then autophagy is a great tool in order to make that happen. Let's talk now about inducing autophagy because this is important. Now, a lot of people, like I said, when they think of autophagy, they think you have to do fasting in order to make it happen. But what most people don't understand is that there's a mechanism behind that that's kickstarting that whole thing. So it's not like it's fasting itself that is doing it. It's the mechanism, the different biochemical functions occurring behind the scenes that activates autophagy when fasting. And let's talk about that for just a moment. So it's a cellular stress response that starts to occur. And as I mention all the time, fasting is a cellular stress response. Though it is a stressor on the body, it is a healthy stressor. And so this cellular stress response from fasting, what it does is it activates autophagy through this pathway, but it's the same pathway that can be activated in many other ways that doesn't include fasting. So what it does is it suppresses mTOR. Now, mTOR is basically what happens is it's this function in the body that is stimulated when, you know, somebody's trying to build muscle. A lot of people who are actually trying to build muscle will want to stimulate mTOR, but mTOR shouldn't be stimulated long-term or quite often simply because what happens if it is it's associated with a lot of disease. So in this whole process, not only do we want to suppress mTOR, but we want to increase adenosine monophosphate activated protein kinase pathways, okay? Now, of course, this mTOR and this AMPK, it's all so confusing, and I don't want you to get caught up in that, okay? So basically, like I said, when we think about mTOR, think about muscle growth, but also bad if it's stimulated all the time. AMP, we want to increase that because that's associated with longevity, decreased disease, and a lot of really good healthy things in our body, including autophagy. And so what does this? Beyond fasting, what is going to do this? What is going to make this happen? Let's go ahead and discuss that. Now, there's many things. First of all, coffee is one of them. How does coffee do this? First of all, caffeine suppresses that mTOR, activates that AMPK pathway, but not only because of the caffeine, but also there's polyphenols in coffee that make this happen too. Exercise is another great way to make this happen. And this is one of the reasons I love people doing high intensity interval training while fasted because it offers this great benefit. It does what we talked about here. So exercise is going to activate this, and then also ketosis. Ketosis, getting into the state of ketosis through following the ketogenic diet is another great way to activate these different pathways, shut down that mTOR. Now, this is something that's interesting here too, because I get all the time this question of, Dr. Zarowski, you said that it only takes, you know, X many hours, let's say 16 hours to get yourself into the state of autophagy when fasting, and somebody else said it takes 3 days. And here's where this confusion comes in, because there's not a standard number that is basically going to be a hard number across the board for everybody. It's going to change based on your lifestyle. And so you can activate autophagy much faster in your body if you're doing some of these things I'm talking about. And let's say that you're combining it with fasting. And so it's very important to understand that concept, because one of the things I'll do is I'll have coffee when I'm intermittent fasting. Of course, not a Starbucks latte, but just a regular good organic black coffee. I'll exercise while fasting. So what happens to me when fasting? I am activating autophagy so much faster. I'm following a healthy diet. But of course, you don't have to be fasting to do this. So coffee, exercise, ketosis, hot and cold therapy. An example of cold therapy would be taking a cold shower for about 10 to 15 minutes. An example of a hot therapy would be using an infrared sauna. Increases that cellular stress, can activate autophagy. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy. This is something that also is very powerful for doing so. My nephew was actually doing this because he was having seizures all the time. And he was getting to the point where he was having multiple seizures a day. So what his doctor did is he had him do hyperbaric oxygen therapy. He was doing it once a day for about a month. And it was incredible what a profound impact it had on boosting autophagy, especially in the nervous system, in order to help repair and decrease inflammation. Now, that's something that's important to understand, is that you can increase autophagy in different ways, in different places in the body. Hyperbaric oxygen therapy is very good for increasing autophagy and repairing the nervous system. After he had this hyperbaric oxygen therapy, one of the things that happened is that he started having a drastic decrease in seizures, and also by the time he was done with it, he wasn't having them anymore. And so, if you combine something like this with the ketogenic diet, very, very powerful for someone who's having seizures, but very powerful for activating autophagy as well. Quality sleep is really important for also activating autophagy, especially in the brain, the neuronal autophagy. You got to sweep up those bad, broken down neuronal cells, go and create new ones. Very powerful for somebody who's trying to improve their focus, improve their brain health. Sleep is just one of those absolute critical pillars of health that you must make sure that you're working on in order to have good health. Now, let's talk about some particular foods that you can utilize in order to boost autophagy. Dark chocolate is one, and also green tea. It has a compound in it called ECGC, which has been research proven to help boost autophagy in the body. So those are both great. Of course, we're not talking about like a Hershey's chocolate loaded with sugar. We're talking about a good, healthy chocolate that is going to offer you good benefits, a good organic chocolate, okay? Turmeric is also great. You hear me talk about this all the time because of the benefits curcumin has to offer, the anti-inflammatory benefits. Now you know that it actually has some benefits boosting autophagy. Blueberries, grapes, in red wine, these are all great at doing so because they have a compound in it called resveratrol, which is associated with decreasing inflammation and anti-aging. Lots of good stuff going on there. Ginger as well because of this compound in it. Rosemary, oregano, and sage has carnosic acid in it, and this is powerful. I know some people who will actually take this and then grind it up, put it in some water, and drink it while fasting in order to help boost autophagy while fasting. So, of course, these are more of the hardcore people who are going to doing these little things, but it's something that you can certainly do. Now, the next thing here is like red raspberries, grapes, red onions. These have a compound in them called quercetin, which has been proven to help boost autophagy. So if you want to learn more about autophagy, what you can do is check out a video on the benefits it has to offer, where I really break down the benefits much further in this video right here. Now, the thing is that it's important to understand here is that when we talk about autophagy, you don't have to be fasting in order to actually get into this state. You can use things like we mentioned here and also use these foods like I mentioned here. And as a result of following this healthy lifestyle and doing the right thing, you will constantly put yourself in and out of autophagy throughout the entire day, and you have the great benefits it has to offer. So give this video a thumbs up and check out this video over here to get more on how fasting helps induce autophagy. You're someone who has exercised on a regular basis, let's say 5 days a week for 5, 10 plus years. Essentially, you're going to have higher amounts of autophagy related markers of gene activity.